So guys, everyone knows how much of a difference main fleet tech bonuses and Meowfisers make, but what about Vanguards? Not many players are at the point in their progression where they have the luxury to max out their Vanguard fleet tech and try to hunt for Vanguard focused cats. But since I do have the privilege of having more or less maxed Vanguard fleet tech and Vanguard specialized cats, I can show you what the difference looks like. First, let's start with cruisers. I chose one ship from each class of light cruiser, heavy cruiser, and large cruiser. I did 5 runs with no fleet tech or cats, then 5 with cats, and then 5 with fleet tech, and then finally 5 with both cats and fleet tech. The sample size is quite small, but the ships I chose are relatively consistent, and it's mostly a showcase rather than something you should base your decisions upon. Alright, let's take a look at the results. So, once we set the base with the first 5 runs, I then proceeded to add my cruiser cats to the fleet. In the officer slot, I have Takemaru, and the talents from top to bottom are Cruiser Reload, Cruiser Firepower, Flame, Tireless Warrior, and Destiny. Aside from replacing the Reload talent with Cruiser Officer, which gives Firepower and Torpedo, this is about as good as you're gonna get for a cruiser-specific cat. I don't have a cat for Torpedo Cruisers, but they're not used much these days. In the command slot, I'm using Oscar, and the relevant talents are Tireless Warrior, Cruiser Officer, and Flame. So in total, we're getting 50 Firepower, 20 Torpedo, 32 Reload, 6% flat damage, and then 4.66% Firepower and 5% Torpedo from the stats of the cats themselves. Takemaru also has skills that increase cruiser stats slightly, but they're more or less irrelevant. After 5 runs, you can see the damage increase of each ship. Brest got the lowest increase because she has the most base firepower, and thus firepower is not as valuable to her as Bremerton and Plymouth. However, it still resulted in a nearly 20% damage increase for Brest, while Plymouth and Bremerton got a similar increase of about 26.5%. In the next 5 runs, I turn on the fleet tech and remove the cats. You can clearly see that the tech bonuses are slightly lower than cats, so expectedly they will get a smaller increase. Surprisingly, Bremerton barely got an increase over base, but that's just due to RNG, and we will get another chance to see the impact of fleet tech in the last 5 runs, where I combine both fleet tech and cats. When I put everything together, we can see a total increase of about 30% for Brest, 38.6% for Bremerton, and 49% for Plymouth. Due to the sample size being on the lower end, the numbers are not exact, but they should be within the ballpark of what you could expect from these additions to your fleet. Next up is destroyers. I chose one gun-focused destroyer in Anshan, and then one hybrid in Kitakaze, and then one torp-focused in Kawakaze. After setting the baselines, I went ahead and added the cats. For my command cat Justice, the talents from top to bottom are Destroyer Firepower, Flame, Torpedo Soul, Destroyer Torpedo, and Destroyer Officer. For my command cat, the best I had was Lime with just Torpedo Soul and Flame. In total, they're providing 4 Firepower, 66 Torpedo, 6% Torpedo crit rate, 8 Reload, and 6% damage in talents. And from the stats, we're getting another 4.5% Firepower and 4.9% Torpedo. Unsurprisingly, Kawakaze got the biggest boost at 46%, as the talents are mostly centered around torpedoes. But even then, Anshan and Kitakaze still received quite a hefty 20% increase in damage. After that, I removed the cats and turned on fleet tech, giving a total of 49 Firepower, 36 Torpedo, 25 Reload, and 4 Accuracy. As you can see, this time we're getting a lot more Firepower than Torpedo. Upon seeing these results, I remembered an idea that I had a while back. At a quick glance, we can clearly see that Kawakaze got more than twice the increase from fleet tech when compared to Anshan and Kitakaze, which is surprising because destroyers have much lower base firepower than Torpedo. And as mentioned, fleet tech gives even more firepower than Torpedo. So then why are we seeing a much bigger increase when it comes to an almost pure torpedo scaling ship like Kawakaze over gunboats like Anshan and Kitakaze? Since the sample size is insufficient to draw any sort of conclusion, I went and investigated further. This time I slotted Shimakaze over Kawakaze and Yudachi over Kitakaze, and I gave all 3 ships very stacked loadouts that you would use in realistic situations to maximize your damage. Again, I set the baseline, this time with 20 runs, with damage increasing, fleet tech turned off. So this includes Firepower, Torpedo, Reload, and Accuracy, but I left the rest of them on because they're not going to affect the results when it comes to damage. Next, I turned on firepower, torpedo, and accuracy, but not reload, which I'll explain later. We can now see an increase of about 11% on Anshan, a very small increase on Yudachi, and a 7.8% increase with Shimakaze. Now, how much of a difference would 25 reload make on ships that have well over 200 reload to begin with? We all know that reload has diminishing returns in regards to DPS. However, if you think about how torpedoes function, they're much more similar to main fleet damage than Vanguard, in that they have long cooldowns and deal a ton of damage in one hit. Therefore, the real value of reload comes from the possibility of squeezing in an extra salvo of torpedoes within a given time frame. The same way carriers can get off one last airstrike, or battleships one last salvo with enough reload bonus. Therefore, once I turn on reload tech bonus, we can see that Shimakaze's damage increased by 21.8% over base, while Anshan's increase is more representative of what you would expect from a DPS increase from reload stat, going from an almost 11% increase without reload to just 11.4% with. The fight that I'm testing in has a duration of 57 seconds, and at the end of the battle, Shimakaze isn't always able to hit one last torp salvo, but in a 77-second fight like meta fights, she is easily able to squeeze out one more torp salvo at the end with the extra reload. Another thing to pay attention to is the difference between relative and absolute increase. If you consider a ship like Bullen, Fleet Tech would probably triple their damage relative to their own base damage, but the absolute increase of the damage, which is what you would mostly be concerned about when maximizing damage, would be very small. Likewise, since Shimakaze is dealing more damage to begin with, the absolute increase from the 21.8% is increasing the total damage output by 18k, while the 11.4 of Anshan is increasing the total damage by just 7k, less than half of 18k. So, maybe the notion that destroyer firepower is the most valuable Vanguard fleet tech is not as clear-cut as main fleet prioritization, as the combination of torpedo and reload has a lot higher of a ceiling. There is some truth in it though that it offers a definite increase that is higher, especially for weaker ships. I have presented you with the information, and you should make your own decision in regards to what to prioritize when it comes to Vanguard fleet tech. Anyway, let's finally move on to the final set of tests, the combination of both CATs and fleet tech. Kawakaze gets the biggest increase of almost 60%, while Anshan and Kitakaze still get over 40% increase. In practice, you're most likely not going to be using Vanguard buffing CATs if you're looking to maximize your total damage, so the fleet tech differential will be much more relevant. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you found it interesting. Thanks for watching, as always, and I'll see you in the next one.